Operations, guys. Everything today is going to be all about operations. Due to the parks moving from ultra low capacity and ultra high restrictions to higher capacity and lower restrictions, how things operate in the parks today is kind of a fluid situation. It's changing all the time. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about virtual queues and how they're working together, the Disneyland Railroad, and updates on some closed attractions and what their status is right now. First, I want to talk about virtual queues. For a long while, all we had was Rise of the Resistance. That was a special situation, and it got all the focus when it came to virtual queues. Now, they have since added Indiana Jones, since the parks reopened, and recently Web Slingers as a third option. We now have 3 virtual queue rides at the Disneyland Resort. Now, initially, the messaging that we were getting was that you could only have 1 virtual queue. Once you got Rise, let's say, you were shut out of Indiana Jones or Web Slingers. But then it sounded like they were saying, no, you can't have more than 1 at the same time. You could hold 2, you could have 2, but just not at the same time. But even that is not necessarily the case, and we tested it. Got up early on Saturday morning for the 7 a.m. distribution for Rise of the Resistance and got ourselves a boarding group. Yes!
Yes! Good job, baby!
Then, as soon as we entered the park, I headed straight for Adventureland. You don't have to, but it felt like the thing to do. I went to Adventureland, got in front of Indiana Jones, and tried to get into the virtual queue for Indiana Jones while still holding Rise of the Resistance. And guess what? Yes, I got one. So I had, at the same time, a Rise reservation and an Indiana Jones reservation. Now, if I had used both of those, I could have also gotten a Web Slingers reservation. I couldn't test it myself on this day because our Rise reservation happened after noon. But if you are lucky enough to get either a Web reservation or a Rise reservation at the 7 a.m. distribution, and you use it before noon, I'm hearing reports, I've heard people tell me that they did in fact get both, that they rode Rise or Web Slingers before noon, then jumped into the noon distribution for the other ride at the other park, and they were able to get one. Now, you still have to be incredibly lucky. A bunch of stuff has to go your way. A, just getting a reservation is hard, any kind of reservation. But 2, getting one to expire or to ride it before noon is even harder. But there you go. It's actually possible to have all 3 in one day. It's possible. Now, let's talk about virtual queues for a second, because this is a topic of conversation that comes up no matter how many times we talk about it. It keeps coming up, so I'm going to say it again here. There are basically no hacks. There are no hacks to beating the virtual queue system. You just basically have to be ready at 6:59 and 59 seconds and hit the join boarding group button. I mean, there are best practices in terms of where you start and that kind of thing. Basically, just hit the join boarding group button and hope for the best. Now, I can't say this. What you want to try to do, if at all possible, is to limit the number of tickets linked to your app to just those tickets that are good for just that day, and have no extra tickets. If you've got a lot of tickets, in the future like I do, they definitely clog up the system, and it makes it impossible, basically. It makes it impossible to get there in time, to be able to click on each one of the tickets that are correct for your boarding group that day. Even if it's just you got to figure out which one is the right one, that kind of thing. Now, I understand that there is some fear, some hesitancy about deleting tickets from your app. Now, knowing that when you delete a ticket from your app, you're not deleting the ticket. You're just deleting the linked aspect of it on your app. But I still get it. I like having the tickets on my app. I do. But you can reload that ticket later as long as you still have the email. When you purchase your ticket, Disney sends you an email with a confirmation. And then in that confirmation, there is a link to your e-ticket. And in that e-ticket is a link to print your e-ticket. And when you print that e-ticket, then you can see the barcode and the ticket number. And then all you have to do is either scan the barcode back into your phone again, into the app, or just type in the ticket number. And it is once again linked to your app. So you can delete it and then put it back in. You can delete it again if you have to. But again, I totally get it. I'm just saying this for those people who are, who are bold. I have I don't know if it's OCD or what, but it terrifies me. That's why I often I'll print my ticket and put it in my back pocket just in case. But that's old school. I'm an old guy. I don't know, but just know that is a very good piece of advice, is to have only those tickets that are good for that day that you're visiting on your app, so that all you have to do is click join and everything is selected for you already. You don't even have to hit select all, like in my case. They were just automatically, the 4 tickets that I had for that day were automatically selected. I just hit, boom, that was it, I was done. It took a second. Choosing tickets takes many seconds, and by then it's over. So that's my tip for you guys as far as virtual queues go. Now let's go over to the Disneyland Railroad, because this is another situation that has been pretty fluid. Much like Tropical Hideaway and Dole Whips, the Disneyland Railroad has become the epicenter, the focus of a lot of people's attention with respect to getting on rides at Disneyland, how long you're waiting, extra long queues, and the sort of effect, this COVID effect on getting on an attraction. And before I continue on this discussion about the Disneyland Railroad, I do want to say again that wait times at Disneyland are still really good. They're still really good for just about every attraction. There are a few outliers. I mean, Pirates and Haunted Mansion are still 45 minutes, but that's normal. On a regular day, when you go to Disneyland, Pirates and Haunted Mansion are going to be 45 minutes. But everything else is less than that. Sometimes Splash hits an hour. Still, on a hot day, that's typical. It could go 90 minutes at Splash Mountain back in the day. But the one outlier, the one where we can definitely say, yes, this is affecting, COVID and social distancing is affecting our ability to enjoy a ride, is the Disneyland Railroad. And it's because of its unique situation. It's unique because you don't have to get off the train. If you choose, you could ride the train around Disneyland from open to close, if that was your wish. No other attraction can say that. There's no other attraction where you can just stay on and not get off. I mean, the omnibus, sometimes they'll let you stay up on top, or they'll let you stay on, and they'll go back and forth down Main Street, but that's it. And most of the time, they'll tell you to deboard the omnibus. But the Disneyland Railroad is the only attraction that allows you to stay on, and that is what's causing the difficulty with, you know, people getting on, being able to get onto the railroad, and why we're seeing waits of an hour for the train. Now, Disney's solution up until a few days ago was to have everybody board at Toontown, and then everybody gets off at Toontown. You can get off at any other station, but you cannot. If you're still on the train at Toontown, you have to get off. I like this situation because it was pretty equitable. It gave everybody a chance to ride the train, and you felt there was at least some sort of you felt good about knowing that everybody was going to get off, and you could see movement, and it was at least, you know, it was kind of like a go quick though kind of situation. But Disney has changed that. They reversed course, and they are now boarding at all 4 stations and deboarding at all 4 stations. And this is because they have extended they were finally able to keep the train running from open to close. So the train runs till 9 o'clock now. Now, they still haven't, though, solved the situation of people not getting off the train. So what they're telling you is that we were at New Orleans Square, right? And I got there at about 10 a.m., and there was maybe 6 or 10 people in the queue when I got there. Cast members are telling people that could be a 30 or 40-minute wait. It could be. It doesn't have to be, but it could be. It's completely random. You have no idea how it's going to go because you have no idea how many guests are going to get off the train at New Orleans Square or at any other station. Now, in this particular instance, quite a few people got off the train, and everybody that was waiting, the 10 or 12 people that were there, 6, 10, 12, I don't know how many it was by the time the train got there, but I did notice the queue emptied. Everybody got on. Now, that may or may not happen in the future, but it's just something worth noting that it doesn't, the cast members are going to give you kind of a worst case scenario. It could be 30 or 40 minutes. They're only running 2 trains right now, which is about 10 minutes, I think, in between trains. They're only running the 2 trains. So I guess this is just informational for you guys. I love the train. I like going on the train, but the conditions have to be right for me. I would say this. My recommendations are Main Street and New Orleans Square, if only because those are the 2 stations where people get off the most. Not a lot of people get off the train at Toontown. Not a lot of people, practically nobody gets off the train at Tomorrowland. You know, they're going. If you're going to Tomorrowland, you're going to Main Street. It's pretty much my feeling. Same thing is true for Toontown. So if you're looking for people to get off the train, the most likely going to get off at Main Street and at New Orleans Square. But then again, the queues are going to be a little bit longer there. The queue at Main Street is going to be super long. New Orleans Square is a little bit less long. That's forever. My recommendation has always been, my instinct has always been, if I want to ride the train, I'm getting on at New Orleans Square. That's always been the case for me. Although I do love getting on at Main Street. I am talking a lot about the train, so we're gonna move on at this point. So let's check in on some attractions that are closed presently and find out what their status is. Street Team has been showing us huge on this. We have been getting a ton of emails, a ton of photos and videos. This is from Street Team member Marlena Persian, and she, like a lot of folks, sent us these photos of the Davy Crockett canoes doing some training, some cast member training, canoe testing, if you will. But now Disney hasn't said anything about when they're going to come back, no word at all, which is strange, when we can obviously see that they are working on it, they're planning on it. So no date, but I would imagine pretty soon. If they're training, it's imminent, in my opinion. Marlena also sent me this pic of more training at Storybook Land. Now, Casey Jr. has been running, but the canal boats have not. Now, initially, I assumed this was because of the refurbishment they were doing to the trellises in that Aladdin area, but that's been done for a couple of weeks now. So I have a feeling that this is more related to staffing. They were short. Disney was short-staffed for a little while, and I think that they were trying to preserve those cast members for the higher capacity attractions. Those attractions that they couldn't really cycle a lot of guests were staying closed. That's just a theory that I'm working on. I say that because we also got another update from the Street Team from Leah Flanagan, who took this shot of the Golden Zephyr. They were doing ride testing on the Golden Zephyr, another attraction that doesn't cycle guests very quickly, but that's coming back. When they're ride testing or vehicle testing the Golden Zephyr, that Disneyland is serious about reopening things, that they are going for it, because the Golden Zephyr is like the last attraction that's going to open, in my opinion. And I do feel like these two occurrences, Golden Zephyr, Storybook Land, are signals that Disney is not only looking to reopen rides, but they're looking to reopen under normal conditions, i.e. no social distancing or higher ride capacities. Storybook Land, that's not an attraction that you want to put 3 people on a boat, because they don't cycle. It's not Small World. You can almost understand Small World because there's going to be another boat picking you up in less than a minute. There's another boat right behind the one with just one person in it. But it takes a little while longer to get people in and out of the Storybook Land canal boats. So they want to keep those things, it's already low capacity. So they want to keep as many people in those boats as possible. So I do think that Storybook Land specifically is a very good sign of their intention to increase or decrease social distancing on rides. Okay, we got one more pic from Marlena. This one is of some scrim that popped up on Tom Sawyer's Island. Definitely not for Fantasmic. I'll say that up front because they do all the Fantasmic stuff backstage in Fort Wilderness, or what used to be Fort Wilderness. I've heard elsewhere that a tree fell while the parks were closed and it did some damage, and there's areas that need to be rebuilt. I mean, that could be true, could be not, but I don't think that the scrim there is a big deal. I don't think it really means anything in terms of whether or not Tom Sawyer's Island is going to open, or if there's anything major happening. They're not doing any kind of refurb there. I think it's just, I do think it's a minor thing. Otherwise, we've seen rafts going back and forth. This pic is sent from Dathrio, but it's not part of any kind of testing or training, as I've been told, just to get materials or cast, on and off the island. No big deal there either, or nothing newsworthy to report there. We're going to be watching this, though. I'm going to be keeping my eye on those rafts. I'm going to be keeping my eye on Tom Sawyer's Island, not for signs of activity about the island opening up, but for Fantasmic, because when Fantasmic crews are prepping, they're pretty obvious. They're pretty obvious. So hopefully we'll be able to see that. You just have to catch them at the right time. Crossing our fingers on that. We don't get to go as much as we used to, so it's hard to do that. Street Team, assemble. And with that, we've got just a few more odds and ends to cover. Blue Bayou. Boy, the reservation thing sure did start off really rocky. And it seems like people are still confused because there's no reservations available. But that's not because of an ongoing problem. It is simply because they're sold out. You can't get a reservation for Blue Bayou. There's only 11 tables, where there used to be, I think it's something like close to 50. There's only 11 tables inside because of social distancing. So, the reservations filled up fast. There's just not anything available. We'll file this one under June 15th, and hopefully things can open up a little bit there, and you might be able to get a reservation. And on that note, it might be worth your while to keep checking the app every day, or even more often than that if you can. If you really got your heart set on going to Blue Bayou, keep checking. I understand it's discouraging right now making any kind of dining reservation at Disneyland, but you have to keep checking. I know it's a drag. It's a drag because I've done the same thing. I've been there trying to make a reservation, and you launch the app, and all you see is Tortilla Joe's and La Brea Bakery and the Uva Bar, and that's it. And you're like, no, I want to go to Disneyland and have some food there. Keep checking, crossing our fingers that with the increased capacity perhaps, or increased, I should say, decreased social distancing, allowing for more tables. That's what we need, is more tables, not necessarily more, well, it is more capacity. We need more tables. When they do that, they'll be able to open up more reservations. Keep checking. And the same thing goes for making reservations for dates that you want at Disneyland. Keep checking the calendar. I'm doing that right now, and I can watch it. Things toggle on, dates toggle on and off every time you refresh it. People are canceling or whatever. Keep checking. Okay, Fantasyland Theater. I have no idea why I felt the need to check in on her, but I did. And I did find something. Social distancing markers. Who these are for, I'm not sure. I feel like if anything at this point, they'd be removing the markers, not putting them down. So this one is a bit of a mystery. It could be for a use that is not guest related, cast members perhaps. I think I heard somebody say that this is an area where cast members would meet or train perhaps, and they would still need social distancing markers. But I'll say I don't think this is a signal that the show is returning. Like I said, if anything, they would be removing markers or just waiting until June 15th. So file this one also, Fantasyland Theater, under June 15th, crossing our fingers. And finally, you may have heard about the churro shortage. There was a bit of a situation in the parks a few days ago where they ran out of churros. Right in the middle of the day, you couldn't get a churro. I'm happy to report that situation has been resolved. You can buy a churro. We happened to drop by one when live streaming on Saturday, saw them making churros and selling churros, so everything is fine there. I'm not sure what happened. I think it was a supply chain issue. Somebody mentioned that there was a recall perhaps, I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. It was a short-term thing. Everything is back to normal operations. You won't have any trouble getting churros or pretzels or cotton candy or popcorn or whatever. And that wraps up our update for this week. Street Team, do your thing. If you're in the parks, because I'm not going to be in the park again until the 18th, so if you're in the parks between now and then, and you see something that you think we ought to know about, that you want our fans to know about, take a picture, shoot a video, send it to me. You can DM me on Twitter at FreshBakedDisney, that's Fresh with no E, or you can just add us on Twitter. Or you can email me privately, david@freshbakedisney.com. Or just tell me a story. Tell me a story of what you found or what you heard, and we'll report it. We'll give you guys a shout out, of course. Otherwise, follow us on Instagram at _freshbaked and on TikTok at freshbakedisney. And that's it, guys. That's all we got for you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. You know it's free. It doesn't cost you anything to be kind. Kindness is power. I love you guys. We'll see you next time. Fresh Baked.